Well, the new Kings G2 Esports came in obviously 2016. This young lineup, you know, Perks was in there, Trick was the jungler. We were like, this guy, yeah, he played a few games over in Korea. Okay, he beat SKT in a BO3.
Bang, there's the flash. Can he get there in time? Wolf trying to get there. Snowball!
So he's probably pretty decent, but we didn't really know what to expect. Kick is moved to the top lane out of nowhere. It was like, why is this guy top lane now? He's a jungler.
Trading Kick goes a little far forward.
And I remember them getting Emperor and being like, I don't know.
Emperor might have saved it.
2 Soul and that one. Hybrid was one of these up-and-coming talents, so there were some highlights, but there were also a lot of question marks. Youngbug, it was his first coaching experience, joining that team as well. It was all weird and new, but it was Ocelot's organization, so you kind of followed a little bit closely, or closer than normal. And then watching them in that spring split last year, that was fantastic.
We're going to hit 32 minutes before all said and done. Kick is going in, and that is going to be Fnatic melting. The game is over. GG, the red hot rookies will knock off the reigning champs.
Because we had this team where we were like, is this like Fnatic of 2015? Where it's fast-paced, you know, there are carries here who's not afraid of making the big flashy plays. And every game was just exciting. Even when they stumped someone, because there would be someone doing something crazy. I remember Perks and Trick just being the best duo we had in Europe, just from mid and jungle, and they were just insane.
Damage is mitigated.
Rookie of the split and MVP of the split, obviously both of them. So when they entered there and they won the whole thing in Rotterdam, that was like one of the moments where you realized, okay, it's a new time.
It's amazing, and so on. That's the last Nexus turret. That's gonna be it. We have a new king in Europe after all.
Fnatic didn't even make the final. Origin had been slumping all split long. They just made the final in the end. They peaked in the end, but they got beaten pretty easily, honestly, by G2. So it was one of those moments where you're like, okay, these old organizations, or these old names on some of these other teams, they're no longer the hot stuff. It's some of these new guys on G2, like Trick and Perks, who you really should look at. The problem just for these new kings is very few people will accept that G2 Esports are a world-class team.
They show the potential.
They showed a B-tier performance, honestly, but they showed the potential to become that A-tier team later on.
And I think, judging on the international performances, that is fair. I think it's perfectly fine to say they're the kings of Europe. But you can't really call them kings when they're then playing against other teams at MSI, at Worlds.
Trick is the focus for now. They take him down, turn back to the Nexus.
And that's the thing for G2 now. There's so much pressure on them whenever they go into any international tournament. Because no one wants to see the same thing where they disappoint, where they drop out, and everyone will get so mad if they don't actually beat the North Americans, the Chinese, and so on. Like, they have to succeed against everyone else, except for maybe the top Korean teams. That's the only place we can kind of be like, it's okay, G2, you tried. So I think a lot of people like don't have the same feeling about G2 they had about Fnatic, when Fnatic was the kings of Europe. Because Fnatic had proven internationally they could perform, they could represent your region, and G2 just have not proven that yet. So a lot of fans are kind of going into these tournaments, sitting back saying, I want Europe to do well, but I don't actually want to cheer for G2. But that can change. That can change. If they make MSI this split, and they make the final, or at least have a fantastic tournament where they beat a lot of the competition, then I think a lot of fans, a lot of European fans will be like, okay, they had a terrible international year before, but they have learned, they have improved. Now we want to get behind them. And then I think they can truly become like the kings that people really want to cheer for. For now, they have to settle for kings in Europe. That's something as well. I think that's fine. I don't think it's terrible. But there's a lot of pressure on them.